All right. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another edition of Inclusion Matters podcast with Inclusion Pro Wrestling. We were going to bring in Commodore Brentwood Sinclair, but instead we're getting his altered ego today, Pete Barker, which is nice because that makes me the heel of this entire thing now, and I can just go and do me. Before we get started, thank you for joining us tonight, Pete. And our host, of course, is the man who thinks he's special, the man who thinks he's a wrestling encyclopedia, the man who thinks he's a goddamn messiah. There's nobody better than God. I'm sorry. So a messiah, please. He might talk like fucking paint's drying. He is, one of the orange juice loving from, wherever, because he loves the damn Orange Cassidy for some reason. I think I think Orange Cassidy is more overrated than anybody else in AEW, but we might get into that later on. Anyways, moving on. So, joined by our host, the Crippled Messiah, and ladies and gentlemen, I hope to God he doesn't put you to sleep today talking like paint's drying. If he does, I do apologize, and you can just write to our complaint line, and I will try to get him off the air. Of course, I'm the heartbreaker because, I'm the man that all the women love. I'm the man that every woman wants to come to. I'm the man that every woman dreams about. So, again, welcome to our show, Pete, and would you like to tell us about yourself?
Yeah, sure. Pete Barker, Sacramento, California. I work with Next Level Pro Wrestling, also out of Sacramento. I do a few things within Next Level, but as character work, I'm the Commodore Brentwood Sinclair, a heel manager to the stars, as it were. I don't know, but that's it. I've been doing it for about a year now, and glad to be here.
You're up.
So
no, okay.
You know what? It's funny that you called yourself a heel because your personality is about as interesting.
Shut up, heel. Anyways, so let's continue this interview. Who are some of your wrestling heroes growing up?
Who are some of my wrestling heroes growing up? Well, so I was born in 1973, and so the 80s were big. And I loved the heels as much as I loved the faces. I loved Jake the Snake. Always going to be one of my favorites. But top of all time was the British Bulldogs, Davey Boy Smith and the Dynamite Kid. And those were the guys that injuries kind of like limited the amount of stuff we got to see from them. But if you were to ask me who was my favorite wrestling team or person to be watching when I was growing up and really getting into wrestling, it was those guys. I could list a whole bunch of other guys from that era, and it's most of them. But those are the big ones. Definitely Jake the Snake too.
So what got you interested in or involved in pro wrestling?
Are you talking about being involved with it now? Or yeah. It's kind of a random thing. I'm friends with El Flaco Loco, who's a wrestler out of Northern California. And I was talking with him, and he was just coming to an event, and I said, "Hey, that sounds fun." And he said, "Yeah, just come by sometime." So I did. I thought that it was just a school. I didn't know they put on shows. I didn't know that they had a TV product. I just thought I was walking in to just, learn how to take a bump or something like that and, have fun and then walk away and never do it again. And I walked in and was hooked. Instantly just kind of got, kind of grown into the family that training class was and still is. And I should add, I was 49 years old when I walked in the door. So, I didn't come in expecting a whole lot, but I was having a lot of fun pretending to not be 49. And after my second or third concussion in training, I thought, well, maybe I should slow this down a little bit. And so we backed it off and and went into kind of manager mode with me. And so eventually the Commodore kind of came out of that. That was starting last October. So it's been a pretty quick development from there. But man, it started with just a random, yeah, come on by and give it a shot kind of thing. And I did, and couldn't be happier.
Very nice. And I have to say, I like your look as the Commodore too. It kind of reminds me of like Rick the Martel with like the yacht hat with the, the flashy jacket.
Yeah, like I had to clean all the cake off of it this morning, but yeah, the Commodore is kind of a mix of a few different people. It's a little bit of Ted Knight from Caddyshack. A little bit of my cousin-in-law that is kind of a bit of a, I don't know, I mean he's family, but he's a little bit of a jerk, and his dad was a former Commodore of a yacht club, and so I just kind of squished these all together and kind of came up with this character of this guy that lives in Newport Beach, California, and likes to talk mess about Sacramento and all the mouth breathers here in Sacramento. And it was a really kind of easy character to jump into in a lot of ways. It was frighteningly easy to be a heel.
No, I kind of get that actually.
Yeah, I think the hardest part about being a heel is getting used to the idea of your friends and family booing and talking shit to you throughout the whole show. My kids have way too much fun just throwing stuff at me and calling me names. It's a little disconcerting how quick they were to take to it, but that's all right.
Well, that's probably the only place they can get away with it without there being any repercussions or anything on the other side. So
shut up, Grinnis. You're taking up the conversation. Shut up, Grinnis.
Yeah.
By all means, human toe, go ahead.
Don't make you putting you in timeout anymore. Anyways, let's see here. Top 5 tag teams of all time.
Top 5 tag teams of all time. Well, you got the British Bulldogs. Are we ranking these, or you just want 5?
Just in your particular order.
Okay, good. Because if we're gonna rank them, this is gonna be a long conversation. But I'll list my top 5 for you. British Bulldogs, Hardy Boys, Heart Foundation, I'd put Edge and Christian up there. I think that in time they'll probably be up there, but I'm still waiting for them to kind of digest a little bit. I think that they were great. There was that, short window when we were getting the Rock and Sock connection. And, I'm going to add them even though they weren't really an official tag team for more than a few minutes. And then there was, oh my God. What was not the Rougeaus, but there was another tag team from back then in the 80s that I really liked, late 80s, early 90s. Oh, you know what? I'm just going to skip and go to the Dudley Boys. I think that they should have been listed earlier than that.
There you go.
Yeah. Yeah. Was that 5? I think
That's
so.
5.
Okay. Yep.
And I like how he brought the Hardys, the only true brother tag team, probably the best brother tag team in wrestling today.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I don't care what the Young Bucks say. I don't care what anybody else says. Hardy Boys, by far, best brother tag team. Sorry, Guns. Sorry, Young Bucks. It's the Hardys.
What?
No, absolutely.
Steiners, though.
Well,
did I ask for you, Grinnis?
No, but you got it anyway.
So okay.
Just deal with it.
These are my thoughts, not yours. Stay the hell out of them.
So the Hardys are kind of what brought me back into wrestling. There was a period of time when I wasn't watching, kind of, when I was in college and around there. And then late 90s, early 2000s, I turned on Raw and I was watching a Hardy Boys match and instantly was right back in it. Like it was 100% watching Matt and Jeff Hardy that pulled me back into watching wrestling full time at that moment. They were, I mean, yeah, and I guess they still are a tag team on AEW now, but they were back then like absolutely electric, absolutely engaging, absolutely hooked the crowd, whether you loved them or hated them. Yeah, they were amazing.
Yeah, you see, that's kind of like me too. The Hardys have hooked me, and that's why I watch AEW. I boycott WWE now because they don't know how to keep their champion. Well, you know, and I'm almost to that point now in AEW too, because they have a champion, I think, in my personal opinion, has held the championship a little too long.
Yeah.
That and he has no wrestling skills, and he stole his 2 moves from Roman Reigns anyway. So
Right.
Anyways, Grimace, do you have a question?
First of all, my name's not Grimace. And second of all,
okay, shut up, Purple People Eater.
So, what advice would you give to an up-and-coming wrestler or promotion?
I would say try to listen 3 times as much as you talk. The guys that walk into the training room with Next Level that really get a chance to build on the skills that they bring to the table are the ones that spend more time listening than they do talking. And the guys that walk in telling everybody how it is, or telling everybody who they are, and not allowing themselves to be kind of a moldable ball of clay, you know, those are the guys that face a lot of resistance and probably don't even, you know, get a chance to show up in a show. I think the thing about that I learned really quickly about wrestling, and I think that Next Level is a lot more open as far as this stuff, as far as compared to your average wrestling promotion. But even in that situation, humility takes you a long way with wrestling, and showing respect to the folks that have been there, that are teaching you, that are giving you advice, or that are just showing you the way that they do it. Respect and humility keeps the door open for you as long as you're there. That's what I would say. I would say skills come second. Your ability to listen and be coachable and be a part of the wrestling community that's already present there in the room is more important than your actual skill set when you walk in the door.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's coming from a guy that walked in the door with 0 athletic ability and couldn't even take a snap bump without giving himself a concussion, and still found a way to be a part of it, you know, and still I'm still engaged with it. I still come to training sessions. I'm still part of the community, and I'm mixing in there as much as I can because it's the funnest thing I got going. But they let me stick around because I know my place. I know I'm not a wrestler. I'm there to listen more than I talk. And I'm just there to be a part of the group, not, you know, you know, everyone has to know that they're one small part of a much bigger group. And that's something that Next Level's got going really well with it right now.
Absolutely. And I can relate to that. We're actually starting our own promotion called Inclusion Pro Wrestling.
Cool.
Out of Washington State. And that's kind of what we want to do, is say, you know what? We're going to all come together as like one thing. I'll make this quick because I don't want to put Johnny Cash's stunt double to sleep up in the corner. But
I'm listening to you.
20 years ago, I was told that I wouldn't be in wrestling because I have cerebral palsy, so I'm in a wheelchair. So, you know, they don't really match up that well because it's a physical sport. But that didn't stop me, so I kept going back to the training until they let me do something. And they actually made me a commentator and the booker, but I think they mainly did that just to make themselves feel better. It's like, okay, we're just going to give them something to do.
Mm-hmm.
And so then it took me like 20 more years, but I was able to buy a ring that Roddy Piper wrestled in. And so our goal at Inclusion is to say, regardless of what your disability is or what you have going on, you know, come live your dream. If like after 5 minutes or whatever that isn't what you want to do, at least you had a chance
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. I'll tell you, Justin Caton, the owner of Next Level Pro Wrestling, has made a really amazing space as far as that goes, where if you have enough guts to walk in the door, we'll make space for you. You know, there's a couple of folks that are on the autism spectrum that I train with. You know, and just in talking full inclusion. I manage a trans woman, you know, that wrestles in our women's division. It's not just a bunch of big musclehead white guys, you know, that are spraying liquid sweat on themselves to look great. You know, it's a very open, inclusive place where, again, literally, Justin has built this place where if you have the guts to walk in the door and if you're willing to work, it doesn't matter where you're coming from. It doesn't matter what you got going on. You can be who you want to be in that space. And that's what wrestling should be, as far as I'm concerned. So I'm glad you're doing that.
I agree.
You know, wrestling is not for people that are normal. You know, like people don't get into wrestling because, like, yeah, I've got everything's great in my life and you know, I got nothing to worry about. People get into wrestling because it's a release in a lot of different ways, and it's a chance to kind of step into a world beyond the one that you actually live in. And if you're not making it inclusive, then where's the fun in that? So
exactly.
Cheers to you for doing that. What part of Washington are you in?
We're in Longview, Washington. It's like 45 minutes from Portland.
I know Longview well. I had a friend that lived on 21st Street over there. I grew up in Portland.
Oh wow.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And now we're gonna welcome in the man of reason, although we don't know why he calls himself the man of reason. I just call him Mop Top or Brillo Head because, dude,
right now he looks like he stuck his finger in a light socket.
You didn't even brush your hair before you came on the damn podcast. Really? You're gonna look like
put my baseball cap on.
So see, it's not just Grimace that I make fun of; it's the other co-host too. So I'm an equal opportunity picker. So man of reason, seems how you're fashionably late to this podcast. I don't care what your damn excuse is. Do you have a fucking question or not?
Wow, somebody's in a mood today.
What is your worst injury you've ever sustained in the industry?
Yeah, that would be, you know, I didn't give myself too many opportunities to get injured, but the worst one was I took a real good concussion off of a clothesline in training from the Godfather of Swole. And it's really not worth even saying that it was him that I took it from, other than the fact that he's our current champion. So I kind of like to brag that I did take one from him at least. But it was a real simple clothesline, and I took that snap bump and just over-rotated, couldn't get my legs out from under me, and just smashed the back of my head on that mat. And lost consciousness for a couple of seconds, and it actually got captured on video. I sat up and said, I don't think I should do this anymore. And I was right.
And so now he's just a manager. Yep.
Yeah. Now I'm a manager. But last night I should have taken several injuries from the slap fest that I took and the beating that I took at the hands of Christina Von Eerie and Kelly Page. It was a little rough.
Especially with the paddle.
I mean, to be honest, he did ask for it. I mean, he wanted to go through a damn table. And they didn't put him through a table. So, I mean, he did ask for it. So, I mean, so quit your damn whining. You asked for it.
I was hoping that we would get to the point where you talk shit to me too, and we're already there. So you've already made me happy. Certainly not whining, for the record, but yeah.
All right, let's see.
All right, man. With that looks like he's a traveling projector.
Okay, well you're in timeout again. Let's go top 5 female wrestlers of all time, in your opinion.
Okay. In no order. Lita. Charlotte Flair. You have to put Moolah on there. And for that matter, Mae Young, but I'll put Moolah in. She wrestles under a different name now, but she's one of my favorite all-time female wrestlers. She was Ember Moon in WWE,
Athena.
and I believe she's
Athena.
with Impact now.
Athena.
She's
Athena.
in
ROH Women's Champion.
That's right. I watched her at a SmackDown taping, and I already liked how she worked, and it was amazing because knowing what I know about wrestling, I know WWE does a lot of scripting with matches, but watching, she has this ability to do these matches with a lot of high spots, but still tell a story, and I think that that's a lost art. A lot of the folks that are really spot heavy in their matches aren't there to tell a story, but I feel like she is. When I watched her work in person, I was blown away. And that leaves one more, and that would be. Can we count Sherry as a wrestler or just as a manager?
We can count her as a wrestler. She was a women's champion for a while, so that works.
Yeah. I'll put Sherry in there. Sensational Sherry.
All right, paint drying, it is your turn yet again. And please just ask a question and don't go into a monologue about everything else, please.
Well, since you asked so nicely, I'll think about it. So, top 5 managers of all time. And you can include yourself, by the way.
Well, I wouldn't, but thank you. I struggle with who I think is the best manager of all time because it's, for me, somewhere between Bobby Heenan, Jim Cornette, and Paulie Dangerously. And I think 9 times out of 10, I'm going to go Heenan. I just think that he's the mold for the best heel manager out there, And I love the fact that all 3 of those guys, and I'll get to my other 2 in a second, but all 3 of those guys were capable of being a personality and being a big part of the show without being dominant, while still knowing that they're talent enhancement. That, a good manager knows that he or she is there not to be the show, but to be enhancement for the wrestlers in the ring, But all 3 of those guys made names for themselves and created personalities that resonated with the audience as heels, and still were there to put over the wrestlers that they were working with, which I thought was great. I'll put Jimmy Hart up there, number 4. And 5. I'm going to say, not because, she was rarely, if ever, on a microphone, but just the role that she played and the part that she played in some of the best storylines that I remember from wrestling in the 80s and 90s. I'm going to say Miss Elizabeth, who was a valet and not a manager, but just more to my point of the manager being there to facilitate the story. She did that as well as anybody. And she wasn't just sitting there being a pretty face. She had the emotion. She had everything. There was, this was in the period of full-on kayfabe, and I, as a young kid, completely bought into it, and I'm not even embarrassed to say that, completely bought into it, and it was mostly because of her, because she was outright terrified of everybody and sold everything the way it should be sold, and without saying a word, usually. So I'll put Elizabeth in that list too.
Very nice.
So before I let the man of reason ask his question, just because you're wearing that hat, I've got to make a dig. So does Sacramento really want the A's as much as Oakland wants the A's? Because I heard they're a team without a home, until 2028. Nobody in California wants that team.
No, we don't. There's some people that here in this town that would say, yeah, they want the A's here. But here's the thing: we already have the Sacramento River Cats, which is the Giants AAA affiliate, and I'm a Giants guy anyway. So why the hell would I want to lose our AAA affiliate that's probably better than the Major League A's team anyway? And I can afford to go to the game and I can get good seats because it's a AAA game. The A's, it's garbage ownership, and they can't fill the stadium, and they're charging $80 for the cheap seats, and they can't figure out why. So hell no, do I want them to come here. They should go to Vegas, where nobody would be going to see them anyway.
Well, they are going to Vegas, to be fair, but they just don't have a stadium for another 8 years because that's the way that it is. So they got to have a home, and I've heard it's somewhere either in California where nobody wants them.
No,
or it's going to be Reno.
No.
So I see in the hat, Sacramento hates you too. So yeah, I guess Sacramento hates the A's just as much as everybody else hates the A's. So man of reason,
pretty much.
Ask your question. See, I can be funny too. I can be a heel, but I can be funny too.
I'll take it.
All right, I know.
No question? Okay, moving on.
Now.
Well, besides, you got his name wrong anyway. He's not the man of reason today. He's the answer to the age-old question of what would happen if Humpty Dumpty became a truck driver.
I apologize.
Okay, now, forehead.
I apologize for Grimace. You can ask your question, sir.
We've asked this to several different people. And one we've had the most outrageous answer to. And we'll get into that in a minute. What is your favorite cookie or snack?
Man, you're really digging deep on this one. Well, if we're talking cookies, it's going to be walnut chocolate chip. It's it's going to be a variant of chocolate chip anyway. So, but you put walnuts in it, and that pretty much puts it over the top for me. Favorite snack, probably Reese's peanut butter cups. That's the one that I usually pop for. So I hope that's a big enough answer to your question.
It is.
But yeah,
it is.
Yeah.
Now I'll let Cooper Messiah tell you the reason why we had.
Don't let Cooper Messiah talk no more. You take the story, please. I don't
okay.
No, I'll tell it. I can make it fast.
No.
Okay, you got to.
You guys work this out while I grab a beer. Hold on a second. All right.
Heartbreaker overruled the Messiah, so I guess I got to do it. We had Funny Bone on a while ago, and he said his answer to that question was Axe body spray.
As a snack.
As a snack.
Perhaps he misunderstood the question.
Oh no, he got the question.
No, he understood the question. The reason was the guy, he mouthed off to a guy, and the guy sprayed the Axe body spray as he had his mouth open.
Oh, okay. Okay. Well, yeah, I guess maybe everything that I smell still smells like cake from all the stuff in my nose from yesterday. So maybe I should probably put cake on that list too.
All right.
Let's see here. So I guess you can help us cause an age-old debate now.
Oh, yeah?
Best wrestler turned actor, in your personal opinion?
Oh, I won't even think about that. It's going to be Roddy Piper.
I like that answer.
I mean, if best means most successful, then we'll say The Rock. But if you want to say the person that I would most want to tune in and watch when that person was on screen in a non-wrestling role, it'd be Roddy Piper. Always. And I should have listed him earlier when we talked about early heroes, because he was way up there too. Massive, really. I just finished reading his biography. It was great.
So
All right, Jeremy.
what's been your biggest like, oh my god moment? Whether that's while you're managing somebody or if you met somebody and you were like, holy crap, I can't believe I just met that person.
Yeah. This was it's kind of an ongoing thing for me is I do a lot of work with Christina Von Erie, who lives here in Sacramento, but she's traveled the world and wrestled for years and years and years. And if you look her up on YouTube, there's just tons and tons and tons of just amazing matches that she's had. And I didn't know about all that before I met her and started working with her. And then, now she's just showing up in my matches all the time, and she's kicked the shit out of me like at least 3 times now. It's been wonderful. I loved it. But it's a really cool thing for me that I'm like that I have these pictures of us like hanging out in the locker room, and then I can go on YouTube and watch these videos of her literally wrestling all over the world in these amazing matches against people that I had heard of for years and years and years. And she's just kind of been there and done that. I consider her a friend. And so that's kind of the biggest oh shit for me. I got to meet Super Beast and hang out with him for a little while. He came to a training session, and that was really cool. He's a great guy, in the ring and out of the ring. But I think that's probably it. I in working in just a small niche of indie wrestling right now. There's been little things that have happened. Swerve Strickland came around to a training session once when he was in town, and that was really cool. But for the most part, the folks that I'm most impressed with and that I'm most excited about meeting is the workers that have been doing indie wrestling for years and years and years. Sam Adonis was another one that came around that was a great guy to meet. And those are the guys that really impress me, that I'm really excited to get to spend some time with.
Very nice. All right, Pat, you're up.
So, what advice would you give a up-and-coming manager?
I think the thing that I've learned most about being a manager is you really got to tap the brakes a lot. It's easy, especially as someone that like never got a chance to be a wrestler. There's that unresolved thing in my head that like I deeply wish that I was the guy in the ring, but I'm not. And so I have to tap the brakes and let the show be the show and let the wrestlers be the focal point. And I'm just there to facilitate the story. And I think managers that come in and kind of dominate the action when it's not supposed to happen. I mean, there's times that they're going to want you to step up and be front and center, but managers that don't really know their role, I think, are the ones that kind of cause problems for storylines, kind of cause problems for bookers, and just kind of make it harder to establish your character, So I'd say the biggest thing is never forget that you're not the show. The wrestlers are the show. The guys in the ring are the show. And you get to be a part of it. But don't overstep that, I think. That's what I would say. And learn how to take a bump, because it's a lot more fun getting in there if they can take a swing at you every now and then.
You mean when you're not getting a concussion, right?
Right. I can do a lot of things as long as it's not a snap bump, which is like the most basic bump in the game, but whatever.
Okay, well, let's see here. So we know wrestlers have them, so we're just going to ask you, what are your post and pre-match routines?
Oh, okay. No, I have routines. I have my gloves are outside drying because I had to hose them off from all the cake. But they're nice leather gloves, and I had to. But I think they're going to survive. You know how like before you're going out to do something, anything, public speaking, wrestling, music, whatever, sometimes you just find yourself getting kind of fidgety and lost in yourself. I try to focus on my gloves. I, pull them on, I tighten them onto my fingers. I'm snapping them and unsnapping them. I try to put my energy on that ritual instead of kind of walking around or making an ass out of myself or pacing or whatever. And I always try, and if I'm going out for a mic spot, I always try to picture 3 bullet points that I want to make sure that I cover during that thing. So right before I'm going through the curtain, I'm running through, not like scripted, not like word for word. I'm just remembering the major points that I want to hit. So I'm kind of reviewing in the moment before I go out there. So I make sure that I don't lose anything to the moment. And post, just like sitting in the stinky locker room and having a beer and talking about the match with all the other guys in the locker room. It's really like the funnest part of it for me. It's just hanging out in the locker room with all the guys and the other wrestlers.
So we're gonna have you put your Booker hat on.
Okay, good.
If you could book a WrestleMania card from any generation, indies are available. 6 matches. Who would be on the card?
6 matches?
Yeah.
Okay. I'll work from the top down. Main event, I want to see Stone Cold Steve Austin and The Rock run it back again. I could never get enough of those guys in the ring together. And when Stone Cold got the comeback for WrestleMania a couple of years ago, that was a huge pop for me. That was just, I did not expect that. And it was just one of those, every once in a while, wrestling will give you a moment that almost brings you to tears, almost makes you a little misty. And that one did it for me. So if I could get Stone Cold up there again one more time, that would be great. Third, I would do, next after that, I would do, I would want the Von Erichs, all 3 of them, against Ric Flair, Arn Anderson, and Tully Blanchard.
Ooh.
Let's see. I want the Bulldogs in there. I want a 4-way tag match with the Bulldogs, the Hart Foundation, the Hardy Boys, and the Dudley Boys.
Nice.
Yeah, and no props, no nothing. Like no tables, ladders, or chairs. Just let those guys go in and work and do their thing. I think that would be amazing. That's at 3. I want Mick Foley in there. And I want it to be some kind of a hardcore match. I don't want it to be Hell in a Cell because he's already done that. But I want Mick Foley and and Terry Funk in a hardcore match together. Where are we out there? Is that 3?
I think that's 3 or 4.
Okay. And you want 6?
Yeah.
Okay. Got to have a women's match in there. And I want to see a triple threat match with Charlotte Flair, Athena, and 1970s era Fabulous Moolah. And let's see here. I want to get some kind of a cruiserweight thing or some kind of high flyers. I want to have, let's see here. I want Jimmy Snuka and Ricky the Dragon Steamboat in a tag team against Macho Man Randy Savage and let's see, his brother, Leaping Lenny Poffo. Is that 6 or is that 5?
That's 5.
Okay.
That's
Thank
5.
you for keeping count there. You got to come up with one more. Okay, so I didn't get the cruiserweights in there, but I want the cruiserweights in there. I'm going to say, again, a fatal 4-way. Oh, I'm going to say a fatal 4-way elimination match because I always like those more than just the regular fatal 4-ways with Evan Bourne, Ricochet, who are some other good cruiserweights? Rey Mysterio Jr. And just for entertainment's sake, I'll say Shane Helms, the Hurricane. And that's my 6.
I love that car.
Well, thank you. I'm glad you do.
All right, Tony, you're up.
Oh, you're skipping Pat. Okay.
Sorry.
Go ahead,
It's the
Pat.
shirt. It's distracting.
Have they done top 5 tag teams?
Yes.
Okay. Top 5 underrated wrestlers.
Oh. Is overrated wrestlers coming next? Because I got that list right off top, but underrated wrestlers. I think Darby Allin, I think, is underrated. Some people think he's overrated. Some people think he's underrated. I think he's underrated. I think any guy that can go in there and not be a muscle guy and pull the storyline along the way he does and sell as well as he does is great. And I just like the persona that he's got anyway too. So I'm going to say Darby Allin doesn't get enough love. I think LA Knight is starting to get some attention. Well, he is definitely starting to get some attention in WWE, but I've always liked him. I always loved when Santina Marella was on TV. And I think that a lot of people really hated that era with him, but I always thought that he was just so entertaining while being able to be a good wrestler. He was really entertaining, you know? So I really miss Santino. I don't get to watch Impact where I'm at. So I know he's back on TV and that makes me happy, but I miss him there. And I think that he was underrated. Underrated. You know, Shawn Michaels gets all the love, but if you go back and watch all of those old tag team matches with the Rockers, there's times when I watch those earlier matches when I wonder if he wasn't the second most talented guy on that team. And I know for some people that's going to be a controversial take. But when I watch old matches of the Rockers, Shawn Michaels was always great. But there were times that I've watched those matches that I think Marty Jannetty, you know, like he's a guy that got a bad run of luck and made his own bad luck too. But there was a moment there when I think that he was underrated in the shadow of Shawn Michaels. Where are we at there? 3, 4?
About 3 or 4, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Underrated. No one else is really coming to mind yet.
Mm-hmm.
I'll talk about Orange Cassidy for a second because he came up earlier in conversation. I can't figure out if he's overrated or underrated. I can't figure anything out with that guy. I can't even figure out if I like him. So I don't know what to think about Orange Cassidy. You know, like I've watched matches with him. I've seen AEW tapings where he's out there and it's just like, come on, dude, like just try to act like you give a crap about this stuff.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank
and
you.
Yet, somehow the match ends up being entertaining while I'm being pissed off at him for not giving a crap. You know, I don't know how both of these things are happening, but so there's something weird happening there with Orange Cassidy, because when I watch him in the ring, I just want to run up there and slap him, because it looks like he needs someone to slap him just to start giving a crap. But at the same time, like, he's in these matches that I seem to really enjoy, so I don't know where to put him on that. But Tony, it sounds like that resonates at least a little bit with you.
Well, I'm going to ask you this next question, and I think Orange Cassidy belongs in this list of answers. You wanted it. You got it. The most overrated, top 5 most overrated wrestlers of all time.
Yeah. Okay.
And feel free to list Orange Cassidy.
Orange Cassidy gets his own category here. He's going to ask a question and walk away. I like his style. Orange Cassidy gets his own category here. I don't know what the hell to think about Orange Cassidy. I think I don't like him, but I don't know. First on my list for overrated, and he's always been there, and it has always pissed off people when I say this, and maybe it'll piss you guys off, but I don't care. CM Punk.
Yep.
Just,
ooh.
I've always thought that he's a mediocre at best wrestler. I've always thought that the fact that he seems to cause trouble wherever he goes isn't a coincidence. And he's a guy that, I think he loses the forest for the trees, and he seems to think that he's the only guy in the locker room sometimes. He's been entertaining on the microphone, but as far as watching him in the ring, I wouldn't put him anywhere more than average. Overrated. Everyone loved him, including myself, but I never much cared for watching Rikishi in the ring, and the whole stick your butt in your face thing never really did it for me. Entertaining guy. I liked watching him when he was doing that little run with Too Cool, and but I should also say, I know that he's capable of a lot more, but the work that they had him doing in WWE back in the Attitude Era was, I don't know, I thought it was kind of shit. Oh, I thought of my 5th underrated to bring back to the other list. Goldust. I loved Goldust. I thought, he's a great wrestler. They put him in a ridiculous character that was just bound to fail, and he kicked ass with it. I always loved Goldust, so I'm going to put Goldust in that list. Back to my overrated list. There was okay. Oh, okay. Here's another. I get a lot of shit from people when I talk about this now, but I'll say it and I don't care. Dominic Mysterio. I think that he's going to be great, and I'm not I think he's going to be great, but right now, like, I mean it in the literal sense, he's a babyface kid that they're trying to put out there as a hardened felon, and I don't buy it. His wrestling is above par as far as, like, a guy that is as new to it as he is, although he's been probably doing it his whole life with his dad. But character-wise and storyline-wise and the way they're using him and all that, I'm not in with Dominic Mysterio. I think that he'll get there. I mean, like, I'm not completely writing him off, and I don't hate the guy. I just think he's getting great heat right now, and that, I'll admit, is kind of the ultimate barometer as to whether he's good or not. But when I watch him, he's not getting me. He's not pulling me in. Sheamus is another one who I'll say is a great wrestler, but he's just never really engaged me. It takes a lot more to be a good wrestler than just having good wrestling skills, and he's never had a hook for me. as far as like bringing me into the story. Which I feel bad saying, because I think that he's a hard worker. He seems to be a great guy. He just doesn't really put on a show for me. So Sheamus is on that list too. How are we doing? Is that 5?
Yeah, I think that's 5.
Yeah. CM Punk and Dominic Mysterio are right up there for me.
And I agree on both of those.
Thank you.
As you would.
CM Punk, because I think the locker room stuff is too much for me to outweigh like the wrestling stuff.
Yes.
And there was a huge plot hole with Dominic Mysterio that bugs the hell out of me, which is that this last year's WrestleMania, they had him come out in a prison van, but he was supposed to be out of prison for like 6 months. So what, did he like have a parole violation or something, and they got rearrested? Or
and it was laughable to me. Like, I'm watching this kid that looks like, I mean, he just needs to get dragged behind a truck a little while to get some scars on his face or something. I don't know. I mean, I don't, like, he just looks way too fresh to be a hardened felon that's out there, that like he was cutting people in prison or anything like that, because he spent 24 hours in lockup. I don't buy it.
Yeah. So what's the craziest match you've ever managed?
The craziest match I ever managed was, I was managing a tag team. I'm going to leave some of the names out of it because they're still out there. Who, taking away all the kayfabe, they were getting the belts that night. And then before the match, one of the guys in this tag team just started acting out. And acting out and acting out and acting out. And within a couple hours, the booking had changed, and they're not leaving with the belts. And they're probably not going to have jobs after tonight. And that was, we all went out there and did the job. And they went out there and did the job. But it was weird as hell being out there knowing exactly everything that was going on. And you know what? We made a really amazing match out of it. But in the background was all of this weird politics stuff. It was my first experience really like dealing with booking politics and, and some of the stuff that goes on behind the scenes. Had another match that was a lot of fun last month with Abigail Warren and the Irish Rose, Kelly Page. And they were in a steel cage. Our July event is all steel cage matches. And so getting to take part in a steel cage match, and I didn't actually fully step foot in the ring, but I played a role in it. It was kind of fun. But being a part of a steel cage match was definitely a special moment. And honestly, I've been doing this for 10 months now, so I think that I'll have some much more interesting stories for me if you were to ask me in a year or two. But for now, I think that's what I got.
Got it. All right, Pat, you're up.
What is your favorite all-time rivalry?
I don't even have to think about that because and I know I keep coming back to these guys, but it's British Bulldogs and Hart Foundation. And if you were to ask me the one moment as a kid that locked me into wrestling, it was that title match with the Hart Foundation and the British Bulldogs and Dangerous Danny Davis as the referee. And Danny Davis counts 1, 2, and he holds his hand up and then he smiles. And then it turns out he was in on it the whole time with the Hart Foundation. Like, it gives me goosebumps right now just reliving it. Like, because I was so in for the British Bulldogs. And that was They were a second away from winning the title after getting screwed out of it for so long. And then the referee has been bought out by the Hart Foundation, and he's in on it with them. That was those guys, those four guys were absolutely hands down my favorite rivalry of all time. No question. Do you guys know the match that I'm talking about with Danny Davis?
Yes.
Yep. God. Yep.
Yep.
Yeah. And then they brought him back as a tag team. They were doing 6-man tag teams with him, and it was ridiculous because he was wearing that black and white striped singlet or something like that, and he looked awful. But it was great. It was great.
Yeah. All right, Tony, go ahead.
All right. Well, I'm going to get in. Oh, look at the time. It's been an hour already almost. Wow. Okay. So I guess I'm just going to get into the last question. Where can we find you on social media, and when is your next match?
All right. So the Commodore is on Instagram as let's see here. I'll give you the official @ because I'm not even positive that I remember myself, which is a little sad, but whatever. Commodore.Sinclair on Instagram. Next match is going to be, let's see here, September. Our event is on, I think, September 23rd. I don't yet know which matches I'm going to be involved in, but yeah, September 23rd. And this is with Next Level Pro Wrestling. You can find Next Level Pro Wrestling on Roku devices, on the CSTV app, or you can just find CSTV on the internet. You can watch all of our past matches, everything on demand, and you can watch live every Thursdays at 7 o'clock Pacific time. And I'm in a lot of those for the last year or so, if you wanted to go back and watch some of the older ones. And yeah, let's see. Next month is I have a new client that I'm excited about. Well, I don't. The Commodore has a new client named Joe Gamble, who's an amazing wrestler and super great in-ring performer. Excited to see what the Commodore gets to do with him. So I'm sure that that's going to be coming around next time too.
Very nice.
Okay, that was my question. Go ahead, Mr. Paint Dry.
So my last question will be kind of like the last one I asked. What was the craziest crowd you ever managed in front of? The one that you kind of look back and went, "Wow, didn't expect that."
Yeah, it was last night. Last night, I've kind of made casual mention of it, but I guess I haven't said it as much for the people that might be watching this later. Last night was the Commodore's birthday party, and it got ruined by Christina Von Eerie and Kelly Page. There was a lot of cake involved. There was some paddling with the Commodore's paddle. And the crowd was so hot, and it was so fun. There were kids that were just talking mess and like picking up hunks of cake and throwing it at him, and grabbing his hat and spiking it on his head and stuff. And there's a little bit of backstory with that too, and that is that this crowd was so great and so hot, but so great to work with that we had a group that used to come to our shows, and I won't name them, but they used to think that they were like the best fans ever, and they were gracing us with their presence. And the truth is they were, 4 or 5 guys that would sit in the front row and dominate the entire thing, like yell over everybody, not let people work on the microphone. It was a really frustrating experience to work with. Last night was an example of a great crowd, super hot, giving it all back to the people in the ring and the people on the microphone, and still letting everybody do their story and do their job. And so last night for me was the most fun crowd I've ever gotten to work with, for sure. To date, There'll be more, but last night was hot.
Very nice. And I noticed the Commodore took a pretty nasty forearm at the end of that too.
Yeah, he took, in the course of that evening, he took 3 good hard slaps from 3 different women, which he probably enjoyed more than he should have. But yeah, Kimberly Diamond, Lara Frazier, and okay. So Lara Frazier, Kelly Page, and Christina Von Eerie all took slaps at him, but Kimberly Diamond's gotten a hold of him before too. Yeah, he's taken a few forearms. He's taken quite a few punches. He hasn't gotten to throw nearly as much as he's caught, which I don't think is right. But, that's just how it goes sometimes.
All right, the man who was late to the podcast because he had another personal obligation that he could not get out of.
I think that's you. Am I pointing the right way?
Yeah.
Well, I hope that's not his legal name. I mean, kind of a fake driver's license.
Yeah.
What is your favorite all-time faction?
Oh. Well, that's a good one. Would you consider a faction any group of more than 2?
Yeah.
Yep.
I would say maybe the Brood, maybe the Nation of Domination. A tag team that I haven't mentioned yet that I also really loved watching was the APA, and I believe that there was a time that they had more than 2 people, but I think that was really just a peripheral thing. I don't even remember who their third person was, but I don't think that they would really count as a faction. I really struggle with the whole D-Generation X thing. I know that they made some good TV, but I wouldn't put them as nearly a favorite as far as factions go. I'll say Nation of Domination. It's tough. It's them or the Brood, because I really liked the whole Gangrel thing and the blood and all that, I don't know. I could give that answer different ways every day, but for now, I'm going to say the Nation.
Well, I agree about the Brood. I thought they had one of the coolest entrances I had ever
Yes.
seen. To
They
this
did.
day, still have.
Yeah.
Yeah. And people would give, like, I don't know what went wrong with Bray Wyatt and all that, but when his thing was really going with him and his crew, like that entrance, to me, some people were so tired of how long it took, but I loved it. I loved the lantern and all that, and the slow music and the slow walkout. So you could call them a faction too. I still wouldn't put them at the top of my list, but amazing entrances. They were up there too.
All right. And now we would be remiss if we didn't thank our sponsors, which we always seem to forget at the beginning. But maybe that's because Grimace doesn't remind me like he should.
Yeah.
Sorry, I was distracted by the Hamburglar.
So without being further ado, Grimace, would you like to do all the sponsors if you can remember them? I mean, I know you're getting older, and I know that forehead needs to be polished a little bit, but can you remember the sponsors?
They're just jealous because my forehead looks good, man. You can put up this forehead in like a magazine.
Dream on.
Yeah, the forehead's just jealous of me because I have hair.
Okay, shut up, Burrowhead.
I have a lot of forehead, so I'm right there with you.
Your hair looks like something out of the Partridge Family, so I wouldn't be talking.
All right, sponsors, let's go.
So we'd like to thank our sponsors, Los Jalapeno Taqueria in Longview, Washington, and also El Ranchero Mexican restaurant in Longview, Washington. Precision Power Washing. You can find him on Facebook. American Family Insurance. The agent there is Kevin Wasson. The CARE program, which stands for Community Action Reaching Everybody, and you can find the lady that's in charge of that on Facebook, and her name's Becky Bernhardt. And Bruce Nichols Painting for all your painting, pressure washing, and lead removal needs. You can find him on Andy.
And sponsors, again, I'm sorry that it sounds like paint drying, that he doesn't put any enthusiasm in your names, but that's just who he is. And he seems to say it's his podcast, so he can do what the hell he wants to do. However, if you guys start complaining enough to the executive producer, then I can probably make a change. So,
watching you guys is the most entertaining part of this thing. I'm clearly not the show, and I like it that way. It's good.
Oh, and now we've got the man with reason with the sucker in his mouth. I mean, come on, you couldn't even wait till the fucking podcast is over with to put a cock in your mouth.
What that man does on his personal time is his business.
Yeah, but we're still alive. Anyway, so for the Commodore or Pete, for the man who came in late with the Brillo head hair, which he actually tried to save, covering it with his hat, with the talking forehead, who, we still need to talk about this Orange Cassidy thing, dude. But other than that,
I'm sorry. Anybody that can do moves with his hands in his pockets and still make them look halfway decent is still entertaining. It might be stupid, but it's still entertaining.
I'm torn.
And for myself, we can talk off the air. But good night, good afternoon, everybody. We'll see you guys tomorrow.
Good night.